He was born in Mexico, ordained in Mexico, but has spent the majority of his life in the United States in places like Los Angeles, Portland, Chicago, and of course San Antonio. I am honored to be joined by Archbishop Gustavo Garcia-Siller for this edition of Spriester Sessions. Archbishop, thank you for being with me today.
Thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Talk about your health, first of all. I mean, was it a month ago?
It was a month and a half ago.
Yeah, when you had a health scare.
Right. I was celebrating Mass and my sugar went really low to the level of coma. So they thought I might have a stroke or a coma. I'm not diabetic, but that happened.
Yeah.
And so I had been since then following directions. They had me hooked to the phone and everything, but it's fine. I'm fine.
Yeah, and you're back to your normal schedule.
Well, I was back 3 days after.
Yeah.
You know, I was 3 days in the hospital.
Yeah. How scary was that for you?
Well, it was not as scary. It was like, you start thinking how fragile you are. Because it was not like a food. It was not that I was going through a particular difficult time in my life. But we are fragile. And Steve, I enjoyed being in the hospital because I go to the hospital. Yesterday I was in the hospital visiting patients. I go to the hospital constantly, different hospitals, but it's very different to be a patient.
Yeah.
And for many, many years, I have not been a patient in a hospital. And so to see that people, they are trying to do the best for you, to care for you, and because in this case it was about sugar, every half hour they were pinch me, every single finger, and they were trying to find a free spot.
Yeah.
Until they regulated, but they wanted to regulate the sugar without help. I began with help, but without help, and so far, so good.
Yeah.
They didn't give me a particular diet. They didn't give me any medication, even during those days.
Mm-hmm.
But I had been taken seriously because I'm not the same. I joined the Missionaries of the Holy Spirit when I was 16. Well, I'm not 16, and I'm not 61. I'm beyond that. 60. I will be 68 next month.
Yeah.
So, well, it has been a learning experience about myself. And to appreciate the work of so many people in healthcare. And also to understand better the people who are in the hospital.
Did it also educate you on just what an important role and person you are, not only in the city of San Antonio, but throughout the San Antonio Archdiocese, which, let's be clear, spreads across Texas?
Yeah, 19 counties, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, was that part of the education too, when you realized just what a big deal it was?
When they told me that I was on the news, I said, that happened in my chapel here, in a regular day of work. And so I realized the office, it's a very important office. Not that I do a little bit of work, but it's what the office means, and the coordination and the relationships, as you know, we Catholic Charities, for example, and you see the people, and they come with so many illnesses and damaged. And and sick. Like 2 days ago, I was trying to do something about 3 families who they left one of our places, our shelter on Pedro Avenue.
Okay, yeah.
Casa de Bienvenida.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so cold and they have babies. But the cold is part of the protocols so that infections that will not happen. People coming from different parts of the world. And so they were trying to rent a hotel when Catholic Charities can do something for them. So, but then to connect them, to listen to their stories. But I touch more my humanity, but also with your question, it's true. I mean, to be a bishop, to be in the line of the apostles, Peter, James, Bartholomew, Paul, is very humbling, very humbling.
Yeah. The last time I saw you was at the Special Reach Gala. Mm-hmm. And I was struck by something you said there. You talked about the fact that, and we talked about it off the top, you've been obviously born in Mexico, ordained in Mexico. Your first trip to the United States was to go to, I believe, serve with some migrant farm workers.
That's right.
So you've
Los
been,
Angeles.
Yeah, you've been in California, you've been in Oregon, you've been in Chicago.
Places.
What sets San Antonio apart to you?
Well, I will say, when I was sent, I studied 9 years French. So I will never thought that I would be sent to the United States, period.
Yeah.
So when I was sent here, it was with the mind that is where the church wanted me to serve. So I came and did some studies in Camarillo, California, living in Oxnard, and that is like an hour and a half north of Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. And in that area they had fields of strawberries and fields of oranges. And so I was working with them at the same time doing some studies. But when I was more fully immersed with them was in Fresno Diocese.
Yeah.
In that, magnificent valley. It was I don't know now because I haven't been lately there, but it was a treasure. You saw life everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
All kinds of fruits, all kinds of nuts, all kinds of food, just being harvested. Every day we have fresh food in our table.
Yeah.
People will bring it to us, and it's when I work with them more. Many of them they were living with between the vines. They would put a cardboard.
Yeah.
And they were living between the vines. Families with their children. And I had the opportunity in those years to walk with Cesar Chavez because he was coming from Stockton and Modesto and then Fresno to go to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel that to be a migrant and a farm worker was something negative or that I was not degraded.
Yeah, yeah.
But because to be working in touch with nature is a wonderful thing. It's wonderful, wonderful. Then later on I understood more all the situation about, people with with papers and without papers, and families who some they have the papers, some they didn't, and to enter in the struggle about how they can be free, and how some of them they are called to do even something else, not just to stay in the farms.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, but it was a beautiful time. I was 4 years there, and of course I went 37 times to Yosemite because I was so close to Yosemite, and I mean our country. That is a beautiful place, but we have so many beautiful places throughout the U.S. It was magnificent, magnificent. And it's like, you know, life in yourself, but life in outside yourself. It's a gift, a pure gift.
Yeah. What have you learned since you've been here in 2010 in San Antonio that's different from those other places that you've been?
What is different is that in the other places, for example, I was in Oregon, I opened a community in Washington State,
right,
and then I work in Alaska. The traditions and the migrations in that part of the U.S., they were different. So, first of all, the biggest change for me was Los Angeles. Well, I was in Orange County, actually, when I was transferred to Chicago.
Yeah.
That was a huge change.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, my voice, my vocal cords, they were damaged in Chicago because I was working with the people outdoors, minus 18. Celebrating masses outdoors for Our Lady of Guadalupe, that they didn't have a shrine, it was outside, you know. In the Economic Plaza, that was the first mass celebrated there, the main plaza of Chicago.
Yeah.
And lack of maturity on my part. I should have said no. Even if my cardinal said, could you go? I should have said no, because of your health, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was a big change. Though there were many Mexicans in Chicago, there were over 1 million Mexicans in all that area, you know, because the train was coming directly from Central America, Mexico, San Antonio, all the way to Chicago. So, but they were divided in sections.
Yeah.
You know, the Little Italy, the Germans, the Czechs, the Slovaks, the Slovenians. And when I arrived here, because I didn't know San Antonio, I received a call, and the 14th of October and the 1st of November I was here. And I was installed on the 23rd, that means tomorrow.
Yeah.
In Main Plaza. But the difference was that there were already some strong values in the air, in the environment, in the people, and no matter the cultures, but it was something very strong that I didn't experience in the other places.
Yeah.
And that is faith, history, the closeness with Mexico, the huge border that we have, Texas being so big, having such an array of people, experiences, the land, very different.
Yeah.
I mean, in Chicago was dense population.
Yep.
Los Angeles, dense population. More people than here, but very different.
So I moved here from the Midwest too. I moved here from Omaha, Nebraska.
Oh, well.
Grew up in the Midwest.
So,
Been almost 30 years now that I've been here. And I am always struck by the people of South Texas. Has that been your experience too?
yes, that is. So I absorb it in the environment. But then, when I begin to connect with people, I recall my installation was the 23rd November, Tuesday, and the 25th was Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And somebody told me on Wednesday, oh, may you have a good Thanksgiving. You too. And where are you going to go for Thanksgiving? And I said, well, I don't know yet. I haven't received an invitation.
Yeah.
And then they said to me, go to the Jimenez dinner. And my first friends that I met in San Antonio were there.
Mm-hmm.
Starting with Rosemary Kowalski.
Yep.
And she took me in her little golf cart all around. I arrived at 8 o'clock and I left at 5.
Yeah.
Just visiting with people.
Yeah.
But you can tell, And since then, that is, and I am a people person. So I spend hours here in the office, but it's always with a mind. Anything I do should be helping someone. Otherwise, get out of here. And I am out as much as I can in different places, but it's the people. And, now that we have been growing more as a city, it's something that we, people in leadership, civic leadership or religious leadership of institutions, we have to pay attention to it. Otherwise, that might change and will be a loss.
Yeah.
Because that you cannot push it or prefabricate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has been lives, stories.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's magnificent.
Yeah, it really is.
It really is.
You came from a large family.
Yes.
How many brothers and sisters do you have?
We are 15.
Yeah.
And my parents still living. And you can see there some of their pictures.
Yeah. How has that influenced you?
Oh, very much. Not for my vocation.
Yeah.
The faith, yes, I received my Catholic faith from them, from my parents and uncles and aunts. But about my vocation, really was my experience with the community of faith in my town.
Yeah.
My town is San Luis Potosí, and that town is the size of San Antonio today, but it's more dense. You see, here everything is spread out because of the land. That is more dense sense of the population. And I recall when I was in that picture, that's the picture of my vocation. When I made my first communion.
Is that your mother?
That's my mother, and my grandfather is behind it.
Okay.
But that day, after the Mass, at the reception, they asked me, one aunt stood up and said, and what do you want to be when you grow older? And I said, I want to be a priest. And though I was a child, I needed to go through a process of discernment and maturity.
Yeah.
But I always wanted to be a priest.
Yeah.
Always.
You're also a migrant.
I'm a migrant, sure.
And you're in a city that is full of migrants, in a country built by migrants.
Yes.
How has that affected you?
Over the years, being involved with the migrants, as I said at the beginning, was just kind of living with them. But when you start seeing the larger picture, of the country. When I studied the Constitution to become citizen, when I went 30 days to the East Coast, 30 days to spend time in museums and getting to know the history of the United States and seeing very different from the West Coast.
Yeah.
I said, such a rich country and so vast, and I started seeing the differences. And so I became more involved in not only being with them, but working for them, doing something. And it's when I get involved in, at the present time, I am in the Migration Committee of the Bishops of the United States. I was in Cultural Diversity Committee too. I was chair for a few years, and to try to bring kind of a common ground and common sense, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have seen many situations that they are very painful, you know. And not just, I mean, the migrants had been kind of the vehicle, but it has been also not necessarily the migrants, you know. I mean, people's lives, and I mean, a lot of things happen that we can do something about them.
Yeah.
You know, and so here, the migrants, in some way, because of the leadership, not in my time, before my time, the leader of the Baptist, the leader of the Jewish community, and the leader of the Catholic Church at the time, they work for really desegregate San Antonio.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very strongly. And so in that sense, there is a way that you can feel like you're home.
Mm-hmm.
And even though new cultures are coming, and you feel like you're at home. Now, how we will keep that is our work.
Yeah.
You know.
I follow you on social media. I follow you on Twitter. I've seen some of your posts. You have embraced social media. Why?
Because in our TV station, in our paper, you know your audience. But I want to put at least something that somewhere will think about.
Mm-hmm.
And not only think about, but maybe to do something about it.
I want to read one of your recent posts.
I can almost tell you by memory.
A week ago. A heart that is humble, pure, and generous can change the world. A heart that sees God and others as the best gift we have received. Where is your heart? It's not something you always read on social media.
Mm-hmm.
That's important to you.
Yes, yes, because I think to read life from the heart is what can lead us to connect better, to understand each other better. So it will not be the face, it will not be if you are rich or poor, if you are in this religion or this other religion, or you don't have any. That doesn't matter. All of us, we have a heart. And the heart symbolizes your whole being.
Yeah. Do you sometimes misinterpreted on social media?
Many times. And I have heard the comments. So not only that I wonder, I think, and I realize that some of my tweets have caused reactions, and not necessarily positive reactions. That one will not be a problem, but there have been others, you know.
Yeah.
Like, for example, another one that was lately that I posed was the slave cries for freedom. The free sings love. And in the environment that we are in, could be taken in many different ways.
Yeah.
But precisely in the funeral that I preside of Jorge Cortez, I didn't preach. He was a priest who was born here in San Antonio and in that neighborhood. So he was familiar with the family and with the environment there. But at the end of the Mass, as I was giving my farewell to the remains of the body of Jorge, I said, you were free. It was not easy for you to be free, but you never let someone to rob you your freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So expressions like that, I know that they can cause controversy. But they're true. And what my hope is that they will know that is not because I want to be followed and to be, stern.
Right.
But with kindness, with love, we cannot let our freedom be taken away.
And it's also, isn't it kind of where we are as a country? Mm-hmm. I mean, we politically anyway, it seems like we're so divided. I'm sure you're seeing it in your congregations as well, in your parishes as well.
In families.
Yeah. But you are the leader of the Archbishop of the Archdiocese of San Antonio.
So how to build unity, but not uniformity? How to be involved in conflicts, but not to end in violence? You and I, we can have a conflict, but not necessarily we have to end fighting and being violent to each other.
Yeah.
But freedom is such an essential gift in a human life that anything that attempts to it, we have to be very careful.
Yeah.
Because it's not like I will deprive you from food one more hour or one day. Your freedom is inside.
Last question I have for you is, unless you have something you're going to add, I want to ask you at the end if there's anything you want to add. But this is going to air around the holiday season.
Right.
And I'm sure you're giving thoughts already about, Christmas, New Year's. What's your holiday message going to be framed around this year?
I will frame it in the word hope. Hope is not optimism. And I am an optimistic person, but hope is something more profound and something that is built up in collaboration, in a cooperation. But I think if families that feel like they have not done well in raising their children. But don't lose hope. And I learned that a lot from migrants. I mean, they can put a wall, they can put those razors, and they continue trying. It's like something very profound. And I think is hope. So when I am going through personal crisis, church crisis, or with some of my co-workers or my bishops, I go to those places where people express, not because it's an intention, but they show hope. And so these holidays should be opportunities. It's true, there are opportunities also for business and having new things and enjoy a new car, whatever. That's fine. That's fine, a new clothes, a new suit. But why not to think that I can place seeds of hope? That no matter how horrific the picture looks like, there is hope.
Yeah.
And so that will be, I think, not only for the holidays, but it will be consistent at least for a year.
Yeah.
For a year, to deepen in the hope that we can give to each other. It could be in a greeting, it could be, we have at the cathedral a man that is 97 years old. His name is Bocho. That man, since I came to the cathedral, every Sunday was there.
Yeah.
And he was singing from 7 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock in the evening outside, creating a great environment in the plaza. In talking with him, he said, my wife died, but not my love for her, and not my love for others, and my love for God. And I made a commitment to Christ that if I have a good voice, and he has a really good voice, even now,
Yeah.
I will share my talent. You said, a little man, he comes, brings his speakers, everything by himself.
Yeah. But it's his gift.
It's his gift. And he hopes his gift will contribute in some way and has done so much good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even though he's a humble man and financially impoverished, but all of us, we can be a spark of hope.
Yeah.
And so, seeds, I think sometimes we can learn about it just putting seeds in our pocket as a reminder. And to put one seed where I have intentionally
Yeah.
placed hope.
Absolutely. I love it. Yeah. That's all the questions I have. Is there anything else you want to add?
Well, I would like to add that in all the places that I had been in San Antonio, thanks to the media, which is criticized too and is under a lot of pressure now,
Mm-hmm.
the freedom of the press, had been a great vehicle of maintaining in the positive way, no staying but maintaining that synodal movement of the community in San Antonio.
Yeah.
You know, and that very important. And since I came first, and I was, the very first day, I was not very well received by the media. Just before the Mass, they asked me, I'm sure that you have been read the paper this morning. I haven't. It was my first.
Yeah.
In St. Mark's Evangelist Church, in the north side, 281 North, in 1604. And they said, that's a case of abuse of a child, of a priest. I said, I really don't know. And then I said, but you have the opportunity. Today could be a great day for San Antonians, or a very sad day for many people in San Antonio. It's your choice. And so one lady from the press came forward and said, well, but you will be willing to speak about all those situations and to face the media. And I said, sure, of course. If there are things that are happening, we need to be.
Yeah.
And since then, we have built a good, responsible relationship. And I would like to say this at the end because we know that at the level of the country is a lot of push of controlling the press. It's another way to control the individual freedom. Here will be the collective freedom. And we cannot let that to happen. We need to be free and then to make choices.
Yeah.
To be guided, to go to the sources, but not to stifle the freedom of the individual or collectively.
Yeah.
Because then it's just mechanical actions and moves. And so thank you, because you initiated this encounter.
Yeah.
And I have in my prayers all of you in the media, knowing the risks that you take and the hard things that you have to cover, you know, many times.
Thank you for doing this and sitting down with us, because you've always been somebody that I've admired from afar, and especially your tweets. I don't know if you realize how refreshing it is to go through a feed and then come across somebody that wants to talk about your heart or your mind or your freedom. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
It has been a pleasure.
It's been great.
To meet with you.
I appreciate it.